and celebrating and highlighting issues that are of interest to the New York State and Long Island taxpayers. Tonight's event is a celebration of you as the New York and Long Island taxpayers, and a reminder that it is all of us, our businesses, our families, our homes, that have made Long Island great and will continue to make Long Island great. But it is a reminder that it is up to us to continue to fight for Long Island and Long Island businesses. His entire career, my co-chair, Jack Oka. Jack is a man who is no stranger to fighting for businesses and jobs and workers here on Long Island. For 30 years, Jack's been responsible for the construction of about 20 million square feet of real estate throughout the metro. Our friend, Mr. Jack Oka.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. When we first started the committee to take part in a fight that Bill Schoolman initiated and that has been followed by various different municipalities and organizations to fight the MTA tax. The MTA tax takes out of Long Island $1.8 billion out of payrolls. Some of us pay for it 2 or 3 times, even though we don't use the MTA. You pay for it, your payroll taxes. You pay for it in your taxes because school districts, other governmental organizations have to pay for it. Hospitals, you pay for it because they have to pay for it. Almost everybody pays for it. We are in not great economic times at the moment. Can Long Island afford to pay $1.8 billion to an organization, as Bill Schoolman so aptly says, is a failed business model? The star person that literally mortgaged his house to fight the campaign, Bill Schoolman started it. We put together various groups, civic associations, industrial associations, labor, management, school boards, Nassau County, Suffolk County, to fight this tax. And we will come up with an alternative to this tax. We, as you know, politics change, and we were all surprised last week by what occurred, but the fight goes on.
Thank you all very much. Thank you, Jack, for that introduction. It's really an honor to be here. Bill, Jack, Joe, distinguished guests, and certainly all of you here. I'm really honored to be here tonight at Cocktails for a Cause to support this organization, Tax Relief Now. And no 3 words assembled together could ever be more timely or more significant. Those of you who know Bill Schoolman know that when Bill asks you to speak, you speak. So I'm very, very happy to be here and to share some thoughts with all of you about what's going on with our economy and with the tax issues. We are truly in historic times. And history will judge us as we have judged others based on how we respond to the challenges facing our state and facing our country. Those challenges are indeed manifested in the struggles facing our counties, our towns, and our villages. Ultimately, those challenges are manifested in the lives of our residents. Lives that have been shattered by lost jobs, foreclosed homes, failing schools, crime, and a myriad of other symptoms that are associated with distressed economies. At the other end of the spectrum are our seniors, those who have paid taxes all their lives, some of them still paying for services they've never used in some cases, wondering how they'll survive here on Social Security, wondering if Medicare will be there when they need it the most, wondering if they'll be able to watch their grandchildren or their great-grandchildren grow up. Some have no choice but to move out of state to places where the cost of living is affordable. Others watch their children move away in search of a job or a better quality of life for their family. truly, one of the most devastating symptoms of economic distress is the breakdown of the family. Aside from the natural human impacts, there are very real economic impacts that rise and reinvent government. There comes a point in time where you can no longer do more with less. There comes a point in time where the reality dictates that we must do less with less. And that is today's reality. And if we're all honest about the challenges, and we all care about the future, and we act accordingly, we can continue in our country's great tradition of leaving the world a little better than it was before. In New York, we will recapture the greatness that once was our reputation, and we will continue to be the greatest, freest country on earth. Thank you. God bless you. God bless America.
Our next speaker comes from the other side of the aisle, but yet has worked with Democrats, Republicans alike to accomplish amazing things in the legislature. When someone asked me, and I asked other people, how's the best way to describe Wayne Horsley? He's a can-do guy. Whatever he gets involved in, he gets done. Wayne was very much involved in economic development, and because of that, he was involved in getting county major investments to stay on Long Island by getting companies that were thinking of leaving Long Island, he got them to stay. He's worked on economic development, creating 600-700 jobs that weren't there for Long Island residents.
Good evening.
Evening.
There you go. I'm a professor as well, so you know it comes with the term. I just wanted to first make a comment about Jack, and thank you very much for those wonderful comments. We were all talking here before, and I was talking to Mike, he said one of the nicest things that was ever said to me, talking about Jack, was that I am a person who has been a icon of modern history of Long Island. And Jack Colquitt has been modern Long Island for the last 30 years. I think he's terrific. Give him a hand. What a great guy. What a good cause. When I was asked to talk about this job-killing tax, now we've all heard about job killing. You know, it's a popular slogan in Washington. You know, anytime you want to say something nasty to get everybody involved, you call it job killing. This really is a job killing tax, if there ever was one. I spoke to I remember this when this first came up, the whole conversation about the MTA tax. I spoke to a restaurant owner, and he says, you know, I'm paying upwards of $800 a month, and this was in the height of the recession, to the new MTA tax. $800. You know, it just, you know, and he said, you know what that is? Do you know what that is? That is a busboy. That was a job that we gave to the MTA, and that really doesn't make sense on Long Island. It is an insidious tax. You know, as Jack and Bill mentioned before, you know, it's not only that your businesses are paying for this tax, but you're also paying it when you go get your breakfast sandwich at the deli. You're paying for it when you go to the library, or you pay for it to live in Suffolk County, because as Tom said before, Suffolk County has to pay $3 million a year.
All right, so on to the main course. Bill Stallman. Just have a few affectionate remarks that were passed on to me by friends of his that I wanted to pass along. But for me, the first time I met Bill, he was wearing a long trench coat, and I really wasn't sure if he was Uncle Fester or Chester the Molester, to be honest with you. Bill is a very litigious guy. In fact, it was his lawsuit against the MTA that sparked this entire organization. But I just wanted to say, Bill, it's an honor, along with some of your attorney and the 3 other people out in the audience, to be with you to honor you tonight. Bill spends so much time in litigation that my cell phone, when he calls me, just goes ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching. He's cheap, too. Anybody who knows him, he's cheap. There was a time he waited online for about 15 minutes in Costco to return some light bulbs, just so the girl could say, we don't sell those light bulbs there. And he said, well, I tried, and left. He's been banned for Ace Hardware for trying to return dead batteries. He's corny. Anybody who has ever eaten with Bill must endure the comments to the waitress like, are you upset your hair does not look as good as mine? And if I get good service, I'm willing to tip you a full 3%. It's a killer. But he has chutzpah. In fact, on the drive here, he called District Attorney Spoder and asked him for a $4 million donation because he heard he had some extra money laying around on Mission Lake. All seriousness aside, though, I'm going to put the notes aside and just speak for a minute from the heart about Bill. It was about a little over a year ago, Bill came to my office and said, Joe, what are we going to do about this tax? I'm sick of it, paying 9 different taxes to the MTA. This is crazy, this is outrageous. And we thought it was just one of Bill's things again, because we get several of those calls a week from him. But he believed in it. And he didn't just believe in it, he did what so many people are unwilling to do today, and that is he put his time, there's a lot of people putting time, but he put his money where his mouth was. He funded each and every step of the initial litigation, the initial action that took in excess of $70,000 of his own money to bring this movement to this point. And there is no bigger hero in society than people that are willing to put their money and their time and their beliefs where their mouth is. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce my hero, Bill Schoolman.
None of that was true. Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Bill Schoolman. I'm the founder of Tax Relief Now, but most importantly, I am an angry taxpayer. Tonight, we're here to celebrate the beginning of a tax revolution, a return to our basic principles where each taxpayer has a vote and each vote actually matters. This is what Tax Relief Now is all about. Our mission is to identify, educate, and legally challenge any tax that is unnecessarily imposed upon New York taxpayers. And that's why our challenge of the MTA payroll tax is so critical, and why all of your support is needed. If we, as New York State taxpayers, cannot win this fight, and this should be a slam dunk, then we as taxpayers have no shot at ever being heard on any of the difficult challenges we have ahead of us, such as school taxes, pension reform, and a non-existent real estate market. The reason I say that our fight here is a slam dunk is because the tax was not only irrefutably unconstitutional, but was also completely unnecessary. For 45 years, the MTA, which I have affectionately referred to as Bloaty, the $56 billion octopus without a brain, who gobbles up everything in sight that it touches. They have been the schoolyard bully, taking the taxpayers' lunch money and using it to purchase non-essential, non-transportation related assets. When the MTA payroll tax was imposed, the MTA had billions of dollars in non-essential, non-transportation related capital assets. And they also had an additional 3 points, was that Albany was in such a rush to impose this tax that it did so in an unconstitutional manner. These irresponsible actions should not be permitted to stand now and should never, ever be tolerated again. Here are 6 projects that Tax Relief Now is doing on behalf of its supporters, all of you. 1, we enacted the first lawsuit to challenge the unconstitutional tax, which was copied word for word by 10 other municipalities and school districts. Number 2, we do educational seminars and presentations to business groups and trade associations. To date, we have already done in excess of 70 of these presentations, and I will continue to do so at the rate of 2 to 3 a week. Number 3, we're calling for the privatization of portions of the MTA, which will promote efficiency and give much-needed jobs to the private sector. Number 4, we're calling on the MTA to immediately begin to liquidate all non-essential assets rather than continue to cut services. And 5, we're calling on New York State Senate to appoint a nonpartisan commission comprised of at least half business people to explore privatization and the sale of the non-essential assets. And 6, and last, we're calling for a complete repeal of this unnecessary tax immediately and unconditionally. And we feel that this agenda will not only help relieve the incredible tax burden imposed upon New York citizens, but will also put much-needed cash and jobs back into the Long Island economy. We feel it's time for Albany to start to make good business decisions, and we're willing to work with any and every elected official to help bring New York back to the innovative economic powerhouse it once was. So, on behalf of Tax Relief Now, I thank you all for being here. I thank you for awarding me the Citizens Advocate Award, and I look forward to all of your continued support. And it really is exciting to look around this room and see what we put together here. So, thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Bill. When we first started this committee, we needed immediate support, not just financial support, but support from business leaders across Long Island who are going to help us. Our first call was to Jack, and Jack has been absolutely instrumental in putting this entire thing together, and we thank him. And our committee was great. It was really fantastic. But there were 3 people who initially and immediately stepped up and took initiative on the committee, had the foresight to help us and put this together. And we'd like to invite them up here for an award. Gene Bernstein, Doug Mandich, and John Corrado, if you could come up as the standing committee members. We appreciate it.
We symbolically have given them glass stars. They have been stars as our profession.
So that's what we got. Enjoy cake and coffee, and David has a question.
Yeah, you forgot